Hello, everyone. Welcome once again. My name is Gbenga Adeyemo. Today, I present to you a very interesting topic in Power BI, parameters in Power BI. Now, let's dive into it. What is parameters? Parameters are dynamic variables that allow you to create flexible, reusable reports by enabling users to input or select values that affect the data or visuals. Parameters are commonly used for filtering, calculations, and report customization without needing to modify the underlying data set or report structure, right? So parameters are dynamic variables, right? That allows us to create what? Flexible, reusable reports. It means that we can maintain our transformations and our data load without having to modify the structure of our data sets, right? Parameters are used for filtering, for calculations, for customizing our reports without us having to modify the report structure. It sounds interesting, right? Okay, let's move ahead. So we have two types of parameters I'm going to be discussing with us today, right? We have the query parameters from the word query, right? It means that this parameter is created in Power Query. Interesting, right? Query parameters are used in Power Query to customize data loading and transformations, right? It is created in Power Query under the Manage Parameter option. I'm still going to show you that, right? Okay, examples of query parameters. For example, you can dynamically filter your rows, right? You can switch between data sources. That's one very interesting thing I've done in the past, and I find it very interesting and fun, right? Where I was able to interswitch between two different databases, right? Or adjusting column selections. It's very, very interesting, sincerely. Let's go ahead. Now, the second parameter type that we have in Power Query, sorry, that we have in Power BI rather, is what if parameters. Now, what if parameters enable users to input different values and see their impact dynamically. That is, you can have a list of values, right? And we use those values to filter your visualizations to see what the numbers look like by the time you dynamically change your numbers, right? Now, how you create what if parameters? You create what if parameters in your report view under your modeling tab, right? Now, example of what if parameters is, for example, when you are simulating price changes, you are adjusting discounts, you are predicting outcomes based on user-defined variables. Now, let's dive into the practical part of things, and you are going to see how query parameters and what if parameters work. So in this example, I have four tables here. I have my sales table, which is my fact table, and I have product category, which is my dimension table, manager table also, which is a dimension table, and I have city table, which is also a dimension table. Now, if you go to the sales table, you will see the order ID, the order dates, the cost, selling price, quantity, and some other foreign keys that are available on this table. Now, the channel key, each channel key represents the different channel of sales in this XYZ organization, right? So we have channel key 1, channel key 2, channel key 3, and channel key 4. They all represent different sales of channel, and there are different managers who are in charge of these different sales channel, right? Now, let's see. So now I'm giving you an example of the query parameters, right? Now, let's say I only want to create a report based on only channel key 1. So I only select channel key 1 and I press OK, right? Now, if I want to dynamically filter this sales table based on different channel key, so I don't need to come here at every time to come and unselect 1, select 2, for example. No, I don't need to do that. So what I need to do is to create query parameters. And how do I do that? Now, after selecting the first channel key I have. Now, under manage parameters here, I'll create new parameter. You click on new parameter, right? Now, when you're done clicking on new parameter, you can edit the name to whatever you want. So I'll change this to channel filter, and I can say in the description, dynamically filter channel key. Okay, so I can put my type to text because it's a text column, and also put list of queries. I'll select list of queries, right? So I have one, I have two, I have three, and I have four. These are the four channel key that I have on my sales table. Then the default value can be set to one, and the current value also can be set to one, right? Then I press OK. Good. Then I see the channel filter, that is the new parameter I just created, appear here. You see that the logo is different from the other table logos, right? Interesting. Now I can come here and select whatever value I want to select, but this will not automatically filter what I have on the sales table. That is the selected channel key on the sales table. Now, how do I ensure that my selected value on my parameter filter what I have on the sales table? Now, how that will happen is that I'm going to come to the setting button here under this apply step, which is where I filtered the rows. I'll come to this setting buttons here, right? Then instead of the ABC you're seeing here, you click on it and change it to parameter. Then the channel filter parameter that you created here is going to appear, right? And you click on OK, right? You see that I selected 4 as my current value. And in the sales table, you can see that the selected channel key, right, as at now is 4. If I go back here again and I select 2, for instance, and I go back to my sales table, right, the selected channel key or the filtered channel key here is going to be 2. I can go back again and and select 1, right? And I come back to my sales table and my filtered channel key changes to 1, right? So you don't have to keep coming here and um start changing your channel key value manually at every point in time, right? I'll show you another example. So let's assume that I delete this parameter. I delete it here. So I have to go back to sales to undo that action. Come back here now. I can delete this, right? Now, I've shown you the first method. Now, another method you can also use is to do the same thing again. Another way you can do it is come here, right? Select one, just like we did the other time. Select one, right? Now, while still selecting the channel key column, right? Come here to manage parameters and click on new parameter, right? The same thing you did, channel, filter, right? Text, right? List of values, one, two, oh, sorry, 2, 3, and 4, right? Default value, 1, current value, 1, and you click OK. Now you have that there. Your current value is 1, right? So you come back to your sales table. Now, while clicking on the last apply step, now you will see channel key equals to 1 in quote because the column is a text column, right? So what you can do is to come here, right, and clear what you have here and type in the channel filter parameter that I just created, right, and press enter. Oh, sorry, let me close the bracket one more time. Yeah, yes. So now you see that your channel key is your table is filtered based on the selected channel key 1, right? So if I come here again and I change this to 3, by the time I go back to my sales table again and look at my channel key column, I see that it is filtered based on channel key 3. Is it not interesting? It's interesting. Now let me undo the last action again and delete the parameter again. I'm still going to show you another way you can create query parameters. So now I come here again to my sales table and I come to my channel key column and I filter based on 1 again, and I press OK. Still the same thing again. I'm going to go to my manage parameters, create new parameter, right? Create new parameter, say channel filter, right? I'll pick text here, pick list of values. That's the same way you did the other time. 2, 3, and 4, right? Current value 1. Sorry, default value 1, current value 1 also, and press OK, right? You have your parameter here. Now you go to sales. Instead of going to the setting button here or coming to the formula bar here to, edit this query or this step, you can also go to the advanced editor, right? You can go to the advanced editor, and where you see filtered rules, blah, 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 channel key equals to 1, then you can come here also and edit it and type in the parameter you just created, which is a channel filter, then press done, right? And the entire table will be filtered based on channel key 1, which is the default uh, value selected under the parameters here. Then I come here, I can change this to 4. Then I go back to my sales table again. Then I see that the channel key selected is 4. So just to do a recap of what I've said, so you can edit your sales table by the apply steps that you took, which is the filtered rows based on the channel key column. You can edit that in 3 places: in the setting, on the setting of the filtered rows here. You can also do it in the advanced editor or do it in the formula bar here. So those are the 3 places you can go and input your new parameter, right? Now let's take a look at another example. Another example. So I'm going to, remove this, delete what I created here, and show you another example. Now let's assume now the first method only it works, but one of the limitations to the first method that we just did is that by the time you have maybe, for example, a new channel key, now you have to go and manually edit, right? That's your created parameter. Let's say we have channel key 5. We only have channel key 1, 2, 3, and 4. So let's assume that you now have channel key 5. That means you have to go to the parameter, edit the parameter, and add 5 manually, right? But now I'm going to show you another method that in case we have additional channel key coming in from time to time or at a given interval. Now, how do you intend to automatically, update this without needing to manually type it inside when you are trying to edit your parameter? So this is what you will do. So the same channel key again, I'll go there like this, right? And instead of me coming here to filter, right, I don't need to do that. What I'll just do is to right click on this column, and the last option here, add as new query, right? I'll click on add as new query, right? It has created a list for me, right? Now I'm going to remove duplicate on this list created so that it only gives me distinct values, right? Now I have 1, 2, 3, 4. Now, when I want to now create parameter now, I'm going to go to my sales, right? I'm going to go to sales. I'm going to look for my channel key. I'm going to go to manage parameter, new parameter, right? Now, still going to use the same name, channel channel filter, right? Then I pick texts because the channel key column is a text column, right? And instead of me picking any value here or list of values, I'm going to click on query this time around, right? I click on query. It's asking me which of the query. The channel key here is a query. I click on the channel key. So the current value should be what? I can root 1 as my current value. Then I click on OK, right? Now, these allow me to type in the value that I want. Unlike the other one that you have a drop down here, you can only select only what you have in the in the drop down list. But now I set my current value to be 2, just like we did the other time. You're going to go back to sales, right? And go look for channel key and filter, let's say filter 2, for example, and I click on OK, right? Then instead of the equals to 2, right, I come to the setting here, right? And I change this to the parameter, channel filter parameter, and I press OK, right? If I come here now and change this to 3, right? And I come to my sales table, right? The channel key filter is going to be 3. Going to be 3. So I just come here and you see, it is now 3, right? Okay, now let's go into, let's look at another very interesting example that I'm going to show you now. In this example, I'm going to show you how I was able to successfully interswitch or interchange between two different databases, or let's say a database and a data warehouse, right? So I assume that the data in the database is still in development, is not yet uh, well formed, not analytical ready yet, right? And I assume that the one in data warehouse is very structured, data quality perfect. Now, let's take a look at what I want to show you. Now, this is my database instance. I open my databases. Now, I have two databases here who have the same table, right? One is still in development. The other is ready for analytical purposes, right? So let's look at list underscore DB. Look at the tables I have there. And I said I have a sales table. Perfect. Now I'm going to go to new query. I'm going to click on new query. And what I will do is to right click here and say select top 1000 so that I could see uh, the first 1000 rows from this data set. So you see similar table, right? From what we did in Power Query, order ID and everything. Now the sales column here, I would say is not yet in good shape because the calculation that was done to derive this column is not what we actually 100% trust, right? Now, let's assume that when I was creating this report, I created a report based on this sales table in my list underscore DB database. Now, let's move ahead. Under transaction database, I also have another table called sales, right? So let me right click, select top 1000, right? And I see something similar, but this one is more structured, data quality, perfect and all. So this is more, trustworthy. I can trust this data source than the other one. But I created my reports based on this one, right? List underscore DB, and I have another one here, the transaction database. Now let's do something now. Let's open Power BI, right? So now I'm going to import the sales table under the list underscore DB, but I'm going to create parameters in such a way that I can enter, how do I call it? I can interchange or interswitch between the sales table in the list underscore DB database and the sales table under the transaction database. Now I go to my get data, SQL Server, right? SQL Server. Now, instead of typing my server name, right? Copying and pasting my server name. I'm not going to actually do that. I'm going to come here and create new parameter, right? I'm going to come here and change it to what? And click on parameter. So I can call this select DB, that is select a database, right? Um, let's call it text. You can change it to type to text. And this one can be any value. I can, because I don't have a list of several servers, so it's still within the same server, right? So I can go back to my SSMS and just do as if I want to reconnect again, and I copy my server name. I go back to my Power BI. I paste server name here, right? And I click on OK. Assuming I have a list of different servers that I'm going to be, interswitching between. Here I can Yeah, I can just use list of values, right? Now, instead of copying and pasting a particular database, don't forget that I'm dealing with two databases now, right? So I'll come here again and also create new parameter for that also, right? Now I can call this one select. Oh, that one was supposed to be, let me go back and change it. That one was supposed to be select server, sorry. Select server, yeah. And this one is what? Select database now, select DB, right? For this, I'm going to use text. Now this one is going to be list of values, right? Because I'm dealing with two databases. So list underscore DB, and this one is transaction. Let me just go and confirm the actual name so I don't make any mistake. Transactions. Okay, transactions. Okay. So I go back to my Power BI. And just type transactions. Very good. So by default, I can use the lists on the code. Maybe the database admin or data engineer is telling me, you know what, don't use the data warehouse yet, which is it. I mean, the transaction um, data warehouse. Don't use that yet, right? Just use the one that is still in development, right? So list underscore DB, list underscore DB. Um, yes, so default value, current value. Then I click on OK. Now I can choose to put it in import or direct query, but I'm just using import mode for now. Then I'll say on my statement here, select star from sales. Don't forget that the name of the table is they have the same name in the two databases, sales, right? Now I've done select star from sales. It means that there are different tables inside each of these databases, right? But the similar tables that they would have is the sales table. The sales table in list underscore DB and the sales table in transaction is the same. It's just that one is more, one has good data quality than the other. So the transaction has perfect data quality, but the other one does not have a perfect data quality, right? So select star from sales. Okay, then I click on OK. Click on OK. We decided we encountered okay, let me go back and edit. Let me go back and edit. Just hold on, please. Okay, just to confirm if this is correct. Yeah, exactly. So let me just copy this. Go back to my Power BI. Paste. Okay, let's see this time. Error again. We encountered an error while trying to connect. Evaluate native query on permitted failure. To select the query, select star from citizen approved for execution. Okay. So let's see what might be the problem. Was there any mistake? Okay, I think I know where the mistake is coming from. So this one is supposed to be select server, and also I chose the same thing for the two. Okay, sorry about that. Then I click on OK now. Good. So now you will see that instead of showing the server name and the database name, it's just showing the parameter, select server and select DB. And you're seeing the sales table, right? So the sales table you'll be seeing on this preview is the one from the one I set as the default value, which is the sales table under the list underscore DB database, right? And I click on transform. I click on transform, right? I click on transform. You see the two parameters, right? Yeah, right? The server parameter and the DB, the database parameter. So let's assume that now I want to create my reports. So I check on my data type. Yeah, looking okay, right? My order ID is text. So let's take a look at all the other. Okay, channel, product, everything looks perfect. You're in the right data type. Everything looks perfect. Now I can close and apply, close and apply, close and apply, close and apply. So it's loading both your parameters and your query. The sales table is query 1. Right, okay. Let's just chill for a little while this loads. Okay, now while this is done loading, let's create a measure. Let's create a measure, new measure. So let's say we want to calculate total sales. So we call this, let me expand this so you can see it well. So we call this total sales equals to what? The sum of what? The sum of sales column in query 1, right? Okay, so I can bring in my table charts, or let me just change it to the matrix table chart, and my new measure, total sales here, and maybe I can have, what again can I have here? Or the channel, okay, put my channel in rows. So this is the price. Let me increase the grid. Okay, just hold on for me. Values, let me increase it to become bigger. Let me say 30. Okay, good. What again? Column headers. Let me increase to 35. Okay, making sense. Okay, so what again? What again? What do I need to change? Okay, row headers can increase to 30 also. Now you see this is the total sales per each of the channel. Channel key 1, 2, 3, 4, right? Now, don't forget that this sales table that was used to create this measure, total sales, is from the sales table in the list underscore DB database, right? So now you see where query parameter is interesting is the fact that you don't need to go back to your Power Query like this, right? So go and start changing the database from here. For example, I come here, I change this to transaction database, and I close and apply, right? So that will change my answer, right? So let's just allow it to load, and my answers will change because the sales table is from another database now, right? You see that my total sales numbers here changed. Now, the good thing is that I can come here, under my model. Oh, no, sorry, not under model. I can come here under transform data rather, right? And click on edit parameters from inside your report view here. I click on edit parameters, right? Assuming you have another server, you can edit the server name here, and you can change it. Now, instead of transactions, let's say I want to go back to my list underscore DB database. I'll come here and change it again, and I'll click on OK without having to go back to Power Query, right? So I click on OK from here, and I will apply changes. I need to apply changes to see a new results. Then it loads, then I see my new figures based on the change database. So this is a very interesting example of how you can use query parameters in Power BI to filter your underlying data source without having to modify your data structure. In my next video, I'm going to showcase the second parameter type, which is the what if parameters. Stay tuned, like, subscribe, and share. Thank you. Bye.